Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and we are finally back with our regularly scheduled content for Game Week 24. Oh my word, guys, it has been so long since we've had an actual FPL Game Week. We had a little taste of Premier League football over the weekend with the Watford and Burnley game, but I'm sure a lot of you guys, just like me, had a pretty bad Game Week 23 and just want to get stuck into Game Week 24. So I'm so glad it is finally here. We can get stuck in, we can start thinking about Game Week 24, we can start planning, and we can get our heads back in FPL mode. Back in the mode, guys. So yeah, that's exactly what we're going to be doing today, guys. If you do enjoy the video, if you're looking forward to FPL being back, please do leave a like on the video and of course subscribe if you are new around here. But without further ado, let's talk about how the buy, sell, keep, avoid videos work. So what are the rules? Well, buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in. Sells are players you probably have but should consider removing. Keeps are players you probably have, and I think you should keep these players. And avoids are pretty hyped up right now. A lot of people are bringing in these players, but I actually think maybe we could take a step back and potentially actually not buy these players. Maybe these players are a little bit overhyped and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the four categories, 2 in each, guys. I'm sure you guys remember from before this long break how this video works, but yeah, I thought I'd go through it again in a little bit more detail. So there you go, guys. Ready for some buys? I know I am. Let's get on with it. So my first buy for you today is Odsonne Edouard. I think he's going to be one of the most obvious buys of the game week because he is kind of ticking every box right now in FPL terms. Great form, great underlying stats, great fixtures with Norwich and Brentford in the next 2, and a double game week in 26 versus an unconvincing Chelsea side who will be playing their first Premier League game in a month at that point, and Watford. So everything is kind of falling into place pretty nicely here. So I think we're going to need to be going for a City attacker for this next run of games, and the obvious choice is Edouard. We may as well call him Obvious Odsonne. 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 games. He ranks 3rd for XG out of all Premier League players over the past 5 game weeks, only beaten by Kane and Bowen, and you can kind of see the sheer quantity of big chances he gets. Almost all of his 13 shots have been in the box, and almost 40% of his chances have been big chances too. And even though it looks like he's overperforming just a little bit, when you actually watch him play, there have been actually a couple of other occasions where he could have scored more. So looking really good from a shooting perspective. Creatively, he leaves a little bit to be desired, but he has managed a couple of cheeky assists against Norwich a few weeks ago. He benefits from being always in those the right positions in and around the box during those Palace attacks, so assists are naturally going to come his way just because of the amount of time he spends in the box. So I know we often say this, but if you're looking for that solution for the forward position in our FPL teams, we've been looking for the forward solution for so long. A forward who's actually going to perform. Is this going to be the one? Well, the signs look positive. So yeah, Edouard as the new forward player to go for, I think he could be the one. But whilst we're on the topic, I also do want to give a quick shout out to Michael Elise. He's finally kind of solidifying himself a place in the team after some injury problems since he arrived, but he's looking really, really immense, so good. He's kind of Palace's form player in many ways at the moment. He's a bit of a risky, maybe he's a bit of a spicy differential, but he's one I like the look of a lot. I would be going for Elise over a Gallagher, for example, since Gallagher can't play against Chelsea over the double game week since they are his parent club. So Edouard and Elise, those are the Palace boys to look at. Our next buy is Anthony Elanga. So speaking of spicy differentials, I suppose, how about this one? So Elanga is a super cheap way of trying to take advantage of the Manchester United double in 25. Now right now it seems like he's competing with kind of Rashford and Sancho for the 2 wing spots. Both of the other guys have had questionable form, maybe out of favour. Elanga, however, is highly regarded by the manager and hasn't really put a foot wrong either. He's 19, a talent they really want to develop. So although I'm not convinced he's nailed, I would probably argue that he's more nailed than a Rashford or Sancho. I've spoken to a few Manchester United fans and they feel really positive about this shout actually. But the great thing is he's only 4.8 million. And that is an incredible bit of value for an attacker from a big team, right? So even if Elanga is just a flash in the pan and finds himself out of favour in a few weeks' time, so what? You've got a 4.8 million that you can just leave on, a 4.8 million player who you can just leave on the bench. No big deal, really. So in terms of trying to maximise the Manchester United players that you have ready for double game week 25, yes, it's a bit of a risk. You can feasibly imagine that Elanga starts one and maybe gets some minutes from the bench on the other, which, to be fair, wouldn't be all that bad, would it? But in terms of creating, a deadwood in your team, longer term, I wouldn't worry too much about it. an Elanga on your bench is still going to be more useful than a Brownhill or a Gilmore. So overall, if we're kind of really trying to target those attackers from Manchester United, we look at obviously Ronaldo, we look at Bruno Fernandes. Who are we going for after that? Elanga, why not? Right, so onto some sales. We'll start you off with Tony Rudiger. I think maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on Rudiger, because what I really mean to say here is sell all of your Chelsea players. Rudiger just happens to be the most popular Chelsea player in FPL, so he gets the sell slot for the purpose of the video. But what I really mean here is Rudiger, Mount, Alonso, Reece James, if you've still got them kicking around, basically any Chelsea player that you have, you probably just want to get rid of. Why? Because they play just one Premier League game between now and March. Due to the Club World Cup and the League Cup final, Chelsea have had a few games postponed, and it leaves us with the most tragic looking 4-week fixture schedule I have ever seen in FPL. One solitary away game against Palace in the next 4. That is it. Now I have to say, after game week 27, everything changes. Chelsea players are going to be great picks since they have insanely good fixtures and will have multiple double game weeks between kind of game week 27, game week 28, and from game week 28 until the end of the season is what I mean to say there. So yeah, Rudiger will be back on the cards. Reece James, when he's kind of fully fit as well, he's going to be fully back on the cards from game week 28 onwards. But for now, there are so many lovely double game week players to go for. Man United and Brighton defenders for game week 25, Liverpool and Arsenal defenders for game week 26, and the very expensive Chelsea defenders seem like really obvious short-term sacrifices to get in some of the slightly expensive defenders from some of those other teams. So yeah, gotta be sold. My next sell is Emil Smith-Rowe. Yeah, I think the ESR era might be over. We kind of knew that maybe he was just in an insane vein of form where everything he was kind of touching was turning into gold. He was overperforming, let's be real, massively up on his stats. And when he's on the pitch, it kind of seems like we're kind of seeing a bit of a regression to mean at the moment, and that's kind of fine. That's what FPL is all about, jumping on players when they hit nice streaks, jumping off them again when things don't look so good. But the thing that concerns me the most with Smith-Rowe is actually his minutes. So Arsenal have no fixture in game week 25 or 27, so that's a guaranteed no minutes in either of them. Holding on to Smith-Rowe is kind of be difficult if you want to field a full 11 in both 25 and 27, particularly if you're thinking about Liverpool players too. It's going to be kind of difficult to have Smith-Rowe, your Liverpool players, and play a full squad in game week 27, for example. And even the game weeks Arsenal do play, is he first choice? Probably not. I mean, the attacking quad at Arsenal looks to be Lacazette, Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka. Smith-Rowe is kind of he'll get minutes from the bench, but that's not really good enough. Even in the double game week, I don't really expect him to start either game. Maybe one, but certainly not both. So it's difficult to even say keep him for the double game week, because I kind of expect a lot of players around his price, even those with single game weeks, to actually outscore him. I think you can afford to keep him if you absolutely must, but at the same time, of the popular FPL assets, he would be one of the first I would sacrifice along with the Chelsea boys. There's plenty of cheap-ish midfielders to go for instead. Elise, like I mentioned earlier, you know, players like Bowen, Rafinha, Saka, they look like kind of much more sensible choices. So yeah, we've kind of had our fun with Smith-Rowe, the stat-busting legend, but it's time to move on to pastures new. Right, so it's time to keep Emmanuel Dennis. Dennis is actually the most sold player so far this game week. So maybe this is going to be a little bit controversial, but I honestly feel like Dennis is a keep. I know the game week 23 red card was super frustrating, ruined a lot of game weeks, mine included. Don't get me wrong, guys, it's no fun whatsoever. So I can completely understand the emotional rage transfer out, right? But if we want to do well in FPL, we kind of have to like do our best to take emotion out of it. And in reality, this is the situation. Dennis has served his one match suspension and will be back right away for game week 24, nice and easy. West Ham, Brighton, they're not actually horrendous fixtures. You know, you could do far worse than them. And then game week 26 is a double versus Aston Villa and Palace, which is actually, in looking at all of the double game weeks, that's actually one of the better doubles, to be fair. So it's not amazing, but it's not too bad at all, really. And we really want to maximise the amount of double game week players we have right now. Selling double game week players makes no sense. You're going to focus your transfers on removing players who don't have doubles and bringing in those that do. Or at least, that's a very broad way of looking at it. Dennis also is actually quite a decent footy player. I know he hasn't actually played too much football over the last month or so, but when he has played, he's looked fairly decent for a cheap striker. 2 goals in his last 5 games played, 8 shots, 7 in the box, and he's also created 2 big chances too for an XA of 1.15. So he hasn't got an assist, but he's at least showing a bit of creativity there. So his underlying stats, don't get me wrong, they're not elite, but they're fine. They're good enough for a player of his price, and they're still good enough for a double game week player. And I know last double game week was really disappointing, but before game week 23 kicks off, we were actually feeling really happy and really confident in Dennis. And I don't think the freak occurrence of a red card, and these things don't happen very often, it was unexpected. We shouldn't expect it to happen again. I don't think that should make us do a full 180 when thinking about Dennis. So he is fine to keep. Our next keep is Cristiano Ronaldo, another player who is being sold a lot right now, maybe for Harry Kane, given his good form. But again, selling a player moments before they have a double game week seems like anti-FPL. And has Ronaldo really been that bad? Well, I mean, yeah, bad for Ronaldo, but you can't honestly tell me that he's dipped below like a Neil Maupay level right now in terms of performance. And Maupay is a player who's being hyped up like crazy right now. Fair enough, you can say, well, he costs a lot more money. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Ronaldo is not worth the 12 million plus that he is. But unless you're planning on redistributing the funds before game week 25, what's the point? If selling Ronaldo leaves a load of money in the bank, what's the point? If you want a Bruno instead, sideways move, what's the point? So Ronaldo owners, keep Ronaldo. Bruno owners, keep Bruno. There's really not much in it between those two players. Both players should play all games in 25 and 24 as well. Play the game in 24 and play both in 25. United kind of need to be at their full strength at the moment just to kind of compete for this top 4 finish that they really, really want to get. And then after that, you can consider removing him. Ronaldo to Kane, ready for Kane's double game week in 26. That looks phenomenal. You could do 2 transfers and basically swap Ronaldo for Salah maybe if you want to do that. But 2 games from Ronaldo and then 2 games from Kane in back-to-back game weeks looks pretty good for the Ronaldo to Kane move, ready for game week 26. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty insane. But for now, don't remove double game week players because even 2 blanks is an acceptable 4 points. Say if Ronaldo was to get 2 blanks, that still wouldn't be the end of the world. So keep them. Sell those with no doubles and those with blanks as a priority. After game week 25, yes, Ronaldo, Bruno, whatever Manchester United player you so happen to have are viable sells. But for now, it seems a little bit of a crazy thing to do. So our first avoid is Mo Salah. I know this one is not going to go down with you guys in the comments. I can already tell. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it is not Salah time yet. We're almost there. I know we're all very excited about getting our perma captain back in action, but I think game week 24 maybe a bit premature to bring him back, a premature salaculation maybe. And the reason isn't his ability or his fixtures. I actually really like the look of this Leicester fixture for Liverpool, and those of you who watch the FA Cup will probably agree with me there. I think Liverpool could score a few, but it's the fact that Salah has just played 3 lots of 120 minutes at AFCON in the space of like a week. That's an unreal amount of football to be playing in some difficult conditions too. He's already said he's tired. He's already said that he may need to rest. And that's before he even plays the AFCON final. So for that reason, it's really difficult to expect him to start back in the Premier League 3 days after the final. That is just expecting too much of him. He's already going to be exhausted. Surely there's no way he'll be ready to start versus Leicester, surely. And then there's the prospect of an AFCON winners parade. Now, I'm recording this video before the AFCON final, so I don't know how relevant this will be by the time the video actually comes out. But if Egypt win tonight, Salah could jet off to Egypt to celebrate with his nation, a trophy parade for the fans. That's going to mean his return to England will be even later. So overall, I'm just thinking Salah is super unlikely to start against Leicester in 24. And I'd say even after that, he's probably 50-50 whether he's going to start against Burnley in game week 25 as well. So it seems a little bit silly to get him now by getting Salah, you'd have to sacrifice kind of good captain options like KDB or Bruno, and arguably you can actually wait till game week 26 before you go for him finally. So no need to rush Salah back into your team just yet. Just because he's available doesn't mean he's actually going to play. I think the guy seriously needs a break. And our final avoid is Saint-Maximin. This one seems a little bit more obvious to me, but he's for some reason one of the most transferred in players so far this game week. So why I don't know. He kind of plays for a team that's consistently disappointing. His fixtures are mediocre at best. He has no scheduled double game weeks. His underlying stats are okay, but nothing amazing. Fair enough, he scored against Watford and Manchester United, but I'm not sure that's the flex that maybe some people think it is, to be honest. When you look at some of the teams he's blanked against, Leeds, Leicester, Burnley, Norwich in recent game weeks. He also played 90 minutes against Cambridge United too, and didn't get anything out of that game either. So a blank against Cambridge United as well, I guess you could say. He's also playing as a winger, which is great when a player is listed in FPL as a midfielder, but Saint-Max is listed as a forward. And I know we've all been really struggling to think of forwards to bring in, but I can just think of a lot of forwards. I prefer to Saint-Maximin right now. Obviously Ronaldo and Kane for the premium slots. Edouard, Morpay, Weghorst look okay if you want to capitalise on those double game weeks. Then we've got those kind of reliable assets of Rowe and Watkins. So yeah, this seems like a really weird buy. Any of you guys who are thinking or have already bought Saint-Maximin, I'd kind of love to hear your reasons, because I don't really get it, to be honest. It just seems like a strange one. I don't know, maybe this is the type of buy for people who only look at very recent FPL scores and nothing else. I can't imagine bringing in any player who doesn't have a double game week in the upcoming weeks. Newcastle is a team you only really pick from if they have insane fixtures or are showing some mad form or something, but I don't know. I just feel like this is just a bad waste of a transfer, and a transfer that people will regret. So I would advise you not to go for Saint-Maximin. But again, if someone could explain to me why he is being transferred in so much, then please do let me know in the comments. So in general, guys, what we need to be doing is focusing our transfer base around the upcoming double game weeks. Buy and keep players who have doubles in 25 and 26. Sell and avoid players who don't have any scheduled doubles. For the most part, I think it will kind of be that simple. I am also feeling a little bit more optimistic that we will be able to plan a little bit more from now on. We're expecting a kind of drastic reduction in the games postponed for COVID reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if only 1 or 2 games were postponed due to COVID in the entire rest of the season, because the rules have become that strict with regards to cancelling games due to COVID. So we can now shift from a reactionary approach to a slightly more proactive approach. Feel free to plan out your transfers a little bit more. Think about future game weeks a little bit more. Think about your chips, when you're going to use them, and maybe even place less focus on your bench as well. I think it might be time where we can start thinking about the long game a little bit more than we were before anyway. And that's it today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy what you saw today, please do leave a like. It really helps out the channel as we swing back into Premier League action. I'm so excited, guys. Honestly, I really am. Please do subscribe if you haven't done already. That would be massively appreciated. And what have we got tomorrow? Tomorrow we've got my team selection video where I will be revealing just how large my red arrow is. It's large. It's large. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's large. But I'm also going to be telling you how I'm going to remedy that and try and move on in a positive, happy, spirited way. I'm sure I'll be able to do that. But anyway, guys, thanks once again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.